Hey everyone, and welcome to the HR Vision podcast. I'm your host, Ivo, and every week I'm going to have a conversation that matters about HR. This week I have Imran Ibrahim with me. Welcome, Imran. How are you?
Hi, welcome. Yeah, I'm very good, thanks. Very good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you
Good.
so much. Thank you for being here. Imran is based in the UK. He's a project manager at FourVision, and today we're going to discuss what it's like to be a PM in HR tech. So let's start. You ready, Imran?
Yeah, let's take it away.
All right. Well, let's start from the beginning, like we do normally with every guest, with a small introduction about yourself, what you've been doing in the area, in the field. Take it away.
Yeah, so project management is something that I've been doing for quite some time. I've been in the Dynamics 365 workspace for a number of years and worked for various different clients. So I've had working from various Microsoft Gold partners to end clients, and I've always had a passion for Dynamics 365. Now, the thing around with HR is I was looking for a previous client, and I was actually on the end client side, and FourVision were one of the suppliers that were providing the payroll services. And I was just quite intrigued and interested about some of the services that FourVision actually provided. And it was a good product. And not so recently, last year, I got a call, and I was asked to join. And ever since I joined, I just thought, wow, this is from what they're actually providing, it's quite an advanced product in terms of the web apps and everything. So I never actually picked HR as an expertise that I wanted to go towards or go down. For me, it was always about leading the team through a successful, implementation, regardless of the technology. So, for me, it's been, it's been a great journey. So I've been, managing, projects, in that workspace. So yeah, it's that's what I've been doing for most of my time anyway.
All right. And so you worked in other areas before that, in other areas other than HR, in project management, or it always been HR?
No, it's been lots of other areas. So I've been working with F&O or FNSEM, as Microsoft likes to keep changing the names. Yeah, and there's been integration, there's been warehousing, e-commerce. So I've worked in lots of different areas, and then AX, CRM, CE. So overall, but the common theme here is that it's all been around Dynamics 365. So yeah. As a project manager, it's very, very different. It's not, like I mentioned previously, it's all about, leading the team through a successful implementation. So it's not really about knowing, everything about technology, about the product, although it does help, but it's more about, guiding the team through that successful implementation and making sure everything is being controlled, and maintained and everything. So that's what a project manager really needs to do, to be honest.
Okay, that's an interesting point of view. Do you notice any difference between the teams you're working on, or even the clients that you work with, regarding if you're doing an implementation on the HR side or on the CRM side or financial side? Do you notice any difference, or basically the same thing?
Well, there'll always be a difference, even if it's the HR side, because every client you speak to, they've got subtle differences between each other. There'll be some clients that want everything 100% standard, so you go through a pretty straightforward approach and deliver the product. But then you have some clients will say, yeah, we want standard. We don't want to pay anything extra, but we want to have all of these extras as well. So, and then you'll have that discussion. You may have negotiations, and you may start having to pull out the statement of works again and everything. So every client has its own challenges, regardless of what it may be. I mean, with F&O, it's always about tackling with the financial teams and a lot of the backing they get from the CFO, because effectively they're the financial chief financial officer. So with HR, I don't tend to see a lot of the CFOs get too much involved. It's more of the HR directors and pretty much on their side. Whereas with the F&O system, I do see lots more involvement around the businesses as opposed to HR. So but ultimately, all implementations are implementations. And for a successful implementation, you have to follow the same principles. It's from what I've seen. So yeah, it's that's my feeling anyway.
All right. Yeah. No, I was just wondering if there's a big difference in people profiles, when you're leading with financial people, IT people, HR people, if it must be some differences there, because different profiles of people select different fields of expertise. So that was why I was asking.
Yeah, of course.
But okay, so you were always interested in technology as well. It was something that you picked on as a project manager, that you really enjoyed the fact that technology comes in to improve processes and what people are doing with their daily job lives, let's say.
I mean, I've always had a passion for technology, and I've always been fascinated how this has actually evolved today. HR systems, from what I remember, were a combination of complex spreadsheets that would be difficult to report on, and would continuously break. And from what I remember, now cloud computing has been a huge game changer from what I've seen, and has allowed global companies to stay connected with the HR with Dynamics 365 and FourVision web apps. So that's where I see the game changer going forward, and that's where I've been interested.
All right. Let's pick up on the thing that you're mentioning. I think already a couple of times, the fact that it's all about taking a project from the beginning to the end, successfully coordinating the team. Trying to do it within the timeline that you have. That's what it's all about for a project manager. So my question for you is, what is like to be a project manager in HR now that you are? What does it mean, and what are the main important factors for a successful implementation of the projects that you've been working on? Right.
I mean, the question they tend to ask the most when introducing project managers is, they say, what is your management style? What style do you manage projects? Mm-hmm. And everybody's quite interested in that, and everybody's got their own style. I mean, it's like personalities. You have your own personality of how you do things and how you behave, and it's a style, but it's more about yourself. Now, I think with me, it's about a project manager should not be seen as a team leader or a master or anything like that. Like, that's the we need to go to the project manager. I mean, the way I see it is in my world, in my bubble, right? So yeah, I see that a project manager should be a person that is encouraging, enabling, and energizing people to to gel as a team and be able to realize their full potential, so that as a team we achieve a successful implementation. And that's how I see it. So we all work together individually. So, we have, a project manager will have, their responsibilities, a team will have their responsibilities. And the role of a project manager is to just get everybody together so they can, work towards their full potential. And I think that's what's really important, that, to get to that level. And that's just my, my style. And that's what I think, we should do. And a project manager in HR, tech, and for the world, we are living today, should be, more like a servant leader. So, whose focus is on the needs of the team members and the customers that we serve. This is with the goal of achieving results, in line with the organization values, principles and business objectives. So I think that's how I feel that, we should do things, more accustomed to that, as opposed to, as opposed to the traditional, how did I say it, a carrot stick mentality, where, you give a carrot if they're doing well, and you give a stick, if they're not doing so well. So whereas I like to not use that kind of approach, and I'd rather, work with people, support, and, that way, we come to a common goal. And, so far, touch wood, I've not had any issues with that at the moment. So yeah, it seems to be working okay. And, what gets me really excited is, when I say when I see the whole team, collaborating and with one another, to achieve that common goal. That's what really gets me excited.
Okay, so I imagine that communication is a big part of keeping those teams engaged and knowing where they're going and getting the work done all together. Is it not? So what are the the main tools, the main things that you take into consideration, that you use to keep the team engaged in terms of communication?
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. Typically, communication is one of the key quality that a project manager needs to have. Because obviously, if you can't communicate effectively, then we're going to be lost, really. So, and it has been challenging when working remotely, because of the pandemic. So that's been a different part in itself. So we have to be quite really, quite strict, in the tools that we use, because of the fact that we're remote now. Because typically, if we weren't remote, then you'd have like you'd have like a team meeting, like a stand-up call for about 10 to 15 minutes max, where you'd probably go through the team and you'd probably ask questions of what did we complete yesterday, what did we achieve, what's our plan for activities today. And then we go through, are there any impediments or any issues or any concerns from the team that we can tackle. So this is the kind of thing that you typically go through on a daily basis, depending on what stage you are at in a project. And also you'd probably have like a weekly meeting, just to go through a bit more detail to see about the activities, the more about project related activities or timesheets and risks and issues. And those typical items that you'd want to go through the team. And when going through it, we want to make sure that it's combined. So in terms of communication, it shouldn't be just about, okay, well, I'm having this discussion with the FourVision team or the partner team, but not with the client team. We need to have the client team as well, so that they feel that also as part of the global team, because we're in this together, basically. So we have to make sure that we do that. And I think that's quite important as well, so that we are always aligned. Otherwise, there'll be misalignment between the teams of where we are in what stage of the project. So that would be typically the kind of things I'd use. So in terms of tools, there are various different tools that we could use. So there's tools like what I use is we've got the highlight report. So it's like a template which has got a nice summary page where it shows milestones of where we are, and whether and what percentage is completed. Then you've got
you share that with the clients, or it's also for the team to be aware where we are in the project.
Yeah, I mean it's shared with the clients, and also there's a large discussion with the team as well. Going through the project plan of where we are, and that's typically what we do in our weekly meetings. But yeah, absolutely, these are always shared with the client. And it gives a RAG status, which is known as a red, amber, or green. So it's like a traffic light. The traffic light. So if somebody looks at the summary page, immediately they can say, right, okay, we are in red, amber, or green. Red as in we're in trouble, or amber, cautious, and green, we're doing well, we're doing fine. So you could just quite instantly look at the page, it's green, we're fine. I don't need to see anything else. If there's a red, right, okay, I need to step into it. So you'd get somebody like the project sponsor or somebody senior from their side to look at the problem and find a fix for it, or find a solution. So this is typically how we communicate things, on a very fast basis, to get to an issue. And then you have your issue and risk register as well, where if there's any risks or issues, and if there's an issue, again, if it's high, if it's a problem, an issue needs to be resolved pretty much straight away. And you'd obviously communicate that. And then, we'd do that on a quite regular basis. And then you have your steering committee meetings with the steering committee. And that would be typically on a monthly basis. That's the way we'd have like sessions with their senior colleagues. So it could probably be the project sponsor, it could be the CEO, it could be the CFO or CTO.
Okay.
So it'd be very people, in quite high positions in the organization that would have discussions with about the progress of the project and the budget and everything else. So, a project manager that doesn't always get invited to those sessions is normally somebody like, Bert or Peter or Mike. But I have been in sessions where the project manager is also invited, just to summarize in very succinctly the project on what status we're at. So yeah.
All right. Very, very interesting indeed. I think you gave some very nice pointers for people listening what it is, to work as a project manager. So thank you for that. So following up on that, that's like you already gave an overview of the best practices and how to do it, but for sure you also face some challenges, when implementing any product. Specifically referring to the HR, since you've been working at FourVision for a year, what are the common challenges that you came across, on your work as a project manager for these kind of products?
I guess typically, some of the challenges that I've come across, arguably it is always about what has been sold from pre-sales to the customer.
Yeah.
Because that's what the customer has bought. We show them a dream. They want something specific, and we've sold them this dream, and they're expecting this dream when it comes to the implementation. Which I guess 6 out of 10 times, that is what tends to happen, but not always the case, because it's there could be some customizations, or there could be other areas, or it could be a case of maybe a dream was sold, but it's not been communicated to the right people correctly. So what typically tends to happen is that when pre-sales go to and sell a product, that they'd go to maybe the CFO, and they'd probably go to one of the other directors, and they'd go there and they sell this, and they say, "Great, look, we've got this super HR solution. It's gonna solve all the problems through the HR team. It's a great product. This is what we need to do, and this is what it's going to cost you." And they'd be like, "Wow, okay, we need to do this. Great, let's get a statement of work prepared. Give it to me, I'll sign it, and then let's start." And that's typically what tends to happen. And then what then happens after that is that there's a sales handover to the project manager. The project manager will then go through it and scan this whole scope of the project, look at it, and thinks, right, okay, we've got a set number of days to do this. And then what tends to happen is that we'll then go back to the client, the project manager on their side, and they go through the scope, and then they realize afterwards that, hold on a second, this is not what we signed up to, or we need to sign up for more, because the people who are responsible for the jobs that they need to do not get involved when contracts are being put together. And I think that's a big problem. And therefore, when it comes to going through the workshops and going through all the sessions, a lot of gaps tends to appear. And then then the client gets frustrated. Stakeholders get frustrated that, why do we have this statement? Why do we have this project with so many gaps? What's been sold? It's because those particular people that were there to sign this statement did not communicate that to their stakeholders, did not communicate to those people, those business leaders who are responsible for those areas. And that's why it ends up costing more money, which means they have to go back to the business to say, can I have more money? And this is always a challenge that, as project managers, we have to challenge. And I think that's why, it's quite important as well that when at pre-sales, or at least when the statement of works is actually being prepared, that a project manager is actually involved and goes through it and gets it approved as well, to make sure that the effort and time and the scope is relative to what we're going to be delivering. Otherwise, we have this continuous loop of a challenge.
Yeah.
And also, the client is not always aware that how much effort they need to put in themselves for activities such as there could be a lot of requirements gathering, and we mustn't always assume that the client is aware of how projects are meant to be implemented. I mean, the client is just doing a normal day-to-day job, just like everybody else. So I think what tends to happen is that when projects are started, consultants come in, PMs come in, they just assume that, the client will just know the process and know the approach. No, right? So, that needs to be really explained. So, at kickoff, when we have project kickoff, we go through the project approach, we go through the project style, we explain of what we're going to be doing, and that needs to be properly understood. Again, that needs to be then communicated to the stakeholders of the business. Yeah. So, when I've been in kickoffs, again, it's always been the senior management team, and which is fine. They understand the approach, but it's not the people. It's not really where it counts, because where it really counts is those stakeholders, because they need to understand the approach. Because if they understand the approach, then they know how we're going to be managing the project. If they don't understand the approach, they won't know. And again, this is a challenge, because you have requirements gathering that needs to be done by the clients. They need to put together requirements of what they need, and then that needs to be signed off. That needs to be agreed by their business, because again, there's a process that needs to follow when you set up a requirement. For example, if you have a requirement like, I've got a shirt, or I've got some trousers. On my shirt, I want 2 blue stripes on this side. I want 2 pink stripes on this side. If that's not agreed, and somebody says, no, actually, I want all blue stripes, or I want all pink stripes, or if we say, well, actually, I'm sorry, we can't do the pink stripes because that's not in the standard. In the standard, there's only blue stripes. If you want pink stripes, it's going to cost you money. That's a gap. How big is the gap? Oh, that's a small gap because it's only 2 stripes. Wait, hold on. I actually want 50 pink stripes. Whoa, 50 pink stripes. That's a big gap. That's going to cost you even more money. So this is how we present, fit gap analysis. And it's normally presented as a T-shirt size. So you've got a small, medium, or large. So small gap, medium gap, or a large gap. Just so clients can understand this, the terms better. So in terms of challenges, you got that, and then you got data migration. Again, sometimes client doesn't always understand how much is actually involved in putting that data together. How much you got to do, and then there's also UAT preparation and go live. Again, you got to create UAT test scripts, UAT scenarios, and then go live activities such as cutover. So all of these typical activities are quite large, and I think in order for a successful implementation, both parties have to be working close together, instead of blaming each other when things go wrong.
Yeah,
so these are the challenges.
These are great insights. Wow. If I can summarize, let me see. I think setting up the right expectations in the beginning, involving the right people in the right phase of the project, so everybody knows what is coming. Communicate well, so from everybody's side, everybody understands what needs to be done and what expected to be done. So I think those are the 3 main things, right?
Correct. Yes.
But I think it was a great insight, Imran. Thank you for that. A large part of software implementation, and you talked about this on the challenges that you presented, is change management. It's making people understand that they were not involved probably in the discussions up top, but then when it comes to them, it's like, come on, we have this software, it's working, in the relatively good way. So why are we changing to this? It's a lot of work, blah, blah, blah. So I guess you need to sometimes convince these people, or at least try to persuade them into adopting this new tool and getting better at that. So that's change management, basically. So my question for you is that, do you face a lot of that? And how do you go about that? How do you go about changing management and trying to to get people used to a new system that you are helping implement?
Yeah, so change management is really an area where the client needs to be managing their stakeholders, throughout the implementation. I mean, naturally, we'll obviously support them in those in that journey. But typically, what we need to do first is, during the change management, is to define on the approach. What's the approach? How are we going to be doing this? What's our position here? And there's different types of approaches that we can use. So, typical approach is that, to gain a business impact analysis. So, that needs to be measured for the changes that are being adopted. And, these need to be communicated to the business leaders, to the SMEs, in order to gain, the sign off of, what typically the changes are going to be. And then, once you go through all those changes and understood that, then this will be then followed by a training approach, right? Okay, so what approach? How are we going to be training these users, based on this new, based on the changes that we're going to be adopting? So there needs to then be a training needs assessment. So of how the onboarding is going to take place for training all the users. So that will be typically something that we need to obviously then assess with the whole team. And then in order to ensure that that is happening in the correct manner, the changes need to be communicated effectively, with a solid communication plan to all users. So you'd have things like, you'd probably have quick reference guides. You'd probably have, maybe, flyers everywhere about there's a new system coming, Dynamics 365 HR, FourVision. Yeah. It's going to be a change. Come to our seminars. Come, if you have any questions, come and see us, come and visit us, maybe have a few tables and chairs. I mean, this is what you'd have if we were not remote. I know it's going to be a bit challenging, when remote, but again, you'd have like regular, meetings with all your users, or you have regular, comms, to talk the business through it, of the changes, or you'd have like promotional videos or training videos, and you'd start inviting people, you'd get them closer and get them, on your side on the changes as to be seen as a positive. Because what you want to avoid is that obviously not many people, like change, because you're used to doing your job in a certain manner, in a certain way. You become very good at it. Your speed is very great. You could almost do it with your eyes closed. And now all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, right, I want you to change everything you're doing. And now you're doing it like this. So it's going to frustrate people, Of course. So, we have to find a positive spin on it, and being able to make people see the benefits and explain, what they can gain from it. Like, for example, let's say if it's something like your leave or your holiday booking, maybe it could be a case of, well, you can now see your leave balances. You can now see, what you have available, or you can see what your team looks like as a manager. You can see who's approved, who's not approved. You can get, things done a lot quicker. So that's how you would probably sell it to the users, that of what you could see now, what you could not see before. A bit like maybe like an iPhone update or something. Sometimes you see, all these different things and stuff. So that's how that's how I'd say that, we'd manage change and stuff. So that'd be, so effective, again, you started the theme from before, communication is absolutely key. It's always about how you communicate this, to the community of how it's going to be solved.
Absolutely. That's a great insight. I just have one kind of a last question for you. It's regarding technology in HR tech. I don't know if you ever thought about, you've seen a lot of things being implemented, things changing at Microsoft. Now we're going back with the HR system, with the Dynamics 365 for human resources, back into the finance and operations module of Microsoft. So there's a lot changing in HR tech. You've been into it, for a while now. Do you see any trends coming up, stuff in HR tech that people should look out for, because they are very interesting, that they might be game changers? Is there anything out there that you feel like can be a nice thing to anticipate?
I think I mean, my personal view, just on the way we're actually moving into the future with a lot of this, and a lot of the tools, a lot of things that we're using today, already use some of this technology. But I'm just thinking that what will tend to happen is individual employees will have more power and control of managing themselves, with probably the use of bots, making decisions, based on rules. They're using the mobile phone apps as opposed to, managers waiting for a manager to actually review and approve. This will be instantly approved based on, rules in their profile and a few things. And again, those would be bots making those decisions. And that's just my feeling. So I think going forward, there'll be more faster ways. And I think the demand will be that, we need to get, items approved quicker, managers to spend less time just going through a lot of the administration, and instead, as long as we've got very a quite strong reliable rules in place, bots can make all the decisions.
All right, that's a good one. Okay, that's all about it. I just want a small thing at the end, like a small challenge. For people out there listening, they never experienced an implementation. An HR tech implementation, let's say Dynamics or something. So, in a quick word, what can they expect from it, and what should they prepare for?
I think for people who have not heard of implementations, and I think in order for it to go nice and smooth, the scope and the requirements, to be agreed by all key decision makers, during a show and tell. Is what I'll say, and key decision makers to be available to witness the system that has been designed based on what has been agreed from the start. So, and everybody to be working collaboratively on a project and to a common goal. And so that's where I see what we all need to do. So first of all, right, is if you want to go smoothly, you've got to make sure that the scope and the requirements have been agreed by those key people. And when it comes to demonstrating a system and being able to make a decision, again, those key people are available. And
they should be involved.
They need to be involved. And we all need to work together for a common goal. Those, to me, are the key successes.
All right, and communication. We cannot stress that enough.
Oh yes, of course, yeah. I mean, communication is all actually part of that. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Imran, thank you so much for your time. This was highly insightful. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did too.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
This was great for everybody listening out there. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next time.